So in case y'all at home are curious, I don't know if you've heard Duncan bring up a couple times throughout our discussions the sync in certain songs. He actually has a webpage pulled up.
Yeah,
Why don't you tell us about what that is?
So this is called Final Offset, and I want to get my keyboard to go away so that I can show it more. There we go. This webpage is called Final Offset, finaloffset.telp.gg. And it is a really good resource if you're trying to get a sense of like what the actual drift of an offset will be on the sync of a chart. So it shows you a couple things, but primarily it shows you one chart that you use as a reference point. Right now I have Black Jackal pulled up because it's essentially perfect sync across the board. It has 0.0 millisecond bias, and then you pick a chart that you want to look at. So I just have Poochie pulled up on the right side. And Poochie, as it shows, there's a little red line that shows what the sync is over time, and then that yellow is how it changes throughout the song. The red is the average of it, and so if you get a more messed up, complicated sync, sometimes that yellow will look kind of like a sinusoid a little bit, which it shouldn't. It should look like a straight line. And so that really helps you if you're trying to get a sense of like, why am I struggling with this song?
Part?
Yeah, it feels like I always get an early when I go into the beginning of max period, and then when I'm getting all these fast, suddenly I start getting slows, and I don't know why, and then it turns back to fast. Well, if you look at the max period sync, you'll see that it starts profoundly late, and then it gets earlier, and then it gets late again. So this can be a really helpful tool for you, especially now that we have visual offset. You can use this, and you see like, oh, this has a 1.3 millisecond offset bias. Why don't I use my visual offset and go, one over to the right so that it will compensate for that?
Of course, that will only help if you are a primarily visual player.
Yes.
It doesn't change the audio sync, just the visual.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a very great tool to use. It's been great seeing a lot of the different tools people have created for DDR and other rhythm game players to use as resources. So this is a really fun one that I've just been liking to mess around with and look. It's real funny to see stuff that you know is really off sync, and you're like, okay, how off sync is that? And you pull it up, and it's like 15 milliseconds late, and you're like, oh, that's why I'm doing so bad.
Yeah, it is fun, like just as like an activity. So I can pull up Paranoid Survivor Max, famous chart, and you'll see one chart looks like nice and clean and kind of a straight line, and then Paranoid Survivor Max over on this side is just all over the place. It's going up, it's going down. It doesn't even look like there really is a sync.
No, not at all.
So if you're wondering, it's really hard to time the song. Am I just bad at it? Nope, it's the song. So it is a fun activity with your friends to go on finaloffset.telp.gg and just look at some of these. Now, it's not going to be perfect across the board.
No, it gives you a good idea.
It gives you a good idea. Sure. Some songs, like you'll look and it'll be like, oh, it says Ace for Ace is on sync. No, it's not. But for the most part, it will give you a sense of things and be helpful for you, particularly for the drifting songs. Let me tell you, Ace for Aces is very off sync. Don't let it fool you.
And also, if you want another tool to use, TrueBPM, I think it's .com. That will give you a more clear indicator of where speed changes are in the song itself and what the speeds are, where stops are. It literally shows you a bar graph of when a song, at what point in the song it changes to a certain speed, how long that speed change is, and then it will also indicate actual stops. So those are two interesting tools that you can use to kind of help you hone in your game and
Yeah, another thing that I would point to is on Sanbai Ice Cream. It does. Oh, never mind. We are not on screen, but I will tell you. On Sanbai Ice Cream, if you click into songs, you'll see there is like a chart graph that will show you the BPM changes throughout. That is pretty easy to follow as well.
Yeah, sometimes it's harder to kind of zoom in on certain parts on the Sanbai, which is why I prefer TrueBPM for that specific indication. But if you just want a quick reference, then Sanbai is definitely a good tool to use to pull that up, just to have a quick idea. All right, so we're moving into our warm-up for our next match between Malkier and Zephyra. Choosing to warm up on Sakura. Notice that Zephyra's on life 4 right now, so I'm not sure if he's aware of that. But again, we're just going to warm up, so it's not going to really matter in this certain scenario.
You think either of them are going to hit the note with the Marvelous?
This is the hardest note to hit in DDR.
Zephyra walked off the pad. Did his best.
I have never hit that step with anything greater than a great. I think it took me so long to just great full combo Sakura because of that one single step. And I do think that is actually the slowest
BPM?
note that you have to actually hit a note on in the entire game. I believe that is still true.
Yeah, what does it go
chat,
down
please correct
to?
me if I'm wrong.
It's like 12 or 18 or something.
It's
like that.
really slow. I can't remember the exact BPM. I'm sure someone will be able to pull that up for me. It looks like Renalis is probably doing that right now, so they could correct me.
But yeah, so not going to matter that they've both failed out. Malkier on beginner and Zephyra on expert. Like we said, everybody has their own goals in their warm-up.
Yeah. Notably, Malkier, one of their claims to fame, they have every beginner chart in the game MFC, which is crazy. That's over 1,000 songs. Their MA is superb. They can just hone in on it. So all these songs, again, you think beginner charts, how hard can they be? But to MFC, every beginner chart is insane.
And a lot of beginner charts, it's not just like, oh, what's the beat? Let's just put it on all of the quarter notes. No, sometimes with these weirder beginner charts for like some of the 18s and 19s, they're just stripping out random notes and putting it on weird offbeats. If you try out playing Pluto the First beginner and tell me that's easy to MFC. No, my friend. That is harder. In my experience, it took me more tries to PFC the beginner chart than it did the basic and difficult
You know,
charts.
sometimes it's harder because you don't have steps that are like really keeping you on beat. You have to like make your own beat. But we're going to be moving on to the first song of the match, which is Chaos Terror Tech. This is a great song.
It's honestly one of the best in the game.
Glow up of the century.
Glow up of the century.
Like,
yeah.
I'm very vocal about how much I dislike Original Chaos. I love Chaos Terror Tech. This song did everything, but the song and the chart did everything that I felt like Chaos should have been. So I think this was very well done. Huge shout out to ARM for this remix. If you haven't listened to Chaos Terror Attack outside of the game, I highly recommend listening to it with headphones on. There's a lot of nuances to the music that you don't really hear playing the game.
And especially, there are some nuances that I only discovered once the 17 chart was released, and they added in extra stops. That it's like, oh, I didn't notice these elements of the music that they added stops into. I think it would be really fun for them to add those stops into the 15.
That would be interesting. So notably, Zephyra is actually keeping their Life 4 on for this. So I'm not sure if that's intentional. It seems like a risky move.
Yeah, we might want to notify him about that after the song, just to check. I would hate to see him fail out with just a couple accidental misses on stops. And that, just spilled some water on my lap there. No worries. It's just my lap, nothing else.
Yeah, but clearly Zephyra are very confident in this. But, I mean, you know, anything can happen between pad issues. Might have a little stumble up that you don't normally do. So, yeah, playing with Life 4 in a tournament is very risky. But they are both doing really, really well and are neck and neck on this. It looks like we are tied up for their... Zephyra up by 3, 4 EX now.
Oh, some fun ghost steps coming out of them. 4 EX. Yeah, they both know this like the back of their hand.
I do love the callbacks to Original Chaos in here too. So they're both very comfortable with this. Not sure Zephyra is going to give anything up for Malkier, but now Zephyra's only up 2.
Yeah, this is essentially a tie game. Especially as, even though there are fewer stops toward the end, the note count comes up.
Yeah, and Malkier just overtook Zephyra.
Oh yeah, a little bit of an extension on that lead.
We'll see if Malkier can hold on to this.
Nails those stops. Phenomenal. Wow, that is just great play. Huge comeback from Malkier in that.
Really, really good job. It was so close.
50 perfects on a song with that many stops and gimmicks. Just about unheard of.
Phenomenal job.
Imagine PFCing Chaos in tournament.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
2 and 4 grades, respectively.
Yeah, Chaos Terror Attack, one of the first songs, not the first, but one of the first songs that started having a different stop section or different speed up section than the other difficulty charts.
Right.
So the challenge chart has significantly more stops than the expert chart. I think the first chart to ever do that was Ace for Aces.
Yeah.
where it had different BPM sections on the challenge chart versus expert and difficult. So definitely becoming a little bit more common in the game. I think we have songs like Let's Dance Around that does that too now. Most notably, the challenge chart actually has been easier stops because it doesn't have any speed changes. And the lower level charts, or the expert chart, does have a speed change. So interesting to see Konami throw in different ways to do that.
Yeah, I like it. I like that they're trying variations on what could potentially start to get old and stale, and they're changing things up to keep it fresh and new. I mean, even adding in like difficult charts with shock arrows is exciting to see with all the new Toby Fox songs.
Okay, so going back to Osaka Evolve Type 1, we saw this earlier in the day. And especially after Chaos Terror Attack, both these players show that they do not have any trouble with speed changes or gimmicks, and they're both looking really clean so far.
One thing that we didn't talk about last time that I think is really cool about this first speed change is that the speed actually stays the same, but it doesn't increase the scroll speed by a factor of 2. It's by a factor of 1.5.
Okay.
So you're still staying on that same BPM, but it changes from green notes to yellow or blue and red notes. Which is a weird thing that only happens in a couple songs.
Yeah.
Another one is...
Endymion, I think, does that. Endymion Difficult.
Endymion Difficult, that Flower 16 from the new A3, Flower 16, it has a slowdown where it's a bunch of 16th notes, but on 75% of what the BPM is originally. Okay. So really interesting to see some of those like just visual gimmicks that it's not actually changing the speed of the song.
And again, just more knowledge checks. Like these players, you see that happening, and you want to think that, oh, I need to start stepping differently, but you're not actually. So both these players executing that flawlessly and clearly showing that they know it.
Right on, like absolutely perfect tie right now.
Right. Yeah, this is insane. They are very, very close.
Oh my God. Any step. This is Zephyra fighting for life right now.
Yeah, Zephyra just very, very subtly ahead.
All right, this final speed up.
Zephyra picking up some perfects there. Malkier takes it by 1! I saw Zephyra pick up a few perfects in the ending run, and it gave Malkier just the window that they needed to pull ahead.
And look at how different that distribution is. 76 and 3 to 56, 11 and 1.
Yeah, like look at the money score. You can see Zephyra definitely only having 3 greats with the better money score, but Malkier just really honed into that marvelous window, and that's going to give them the edge to win on EX.
Yeah, that is always going to be the key. If you have the better marvelous timing, that will absolutely carry you through to the win.
Definitely.
With this type of score system. So, wow, that is, man, a 1 EX difference. But it was good to see Zephyra with a smile on his face when he walked off. Feeling good about that performance.
Yeah. You want to make sure you're going into the mod screen before tournament and turning all that off, because you do not want any mistake to cost you a song win.
Right. I do recall during Upbeat Mark forgetting Life 4 on some 18, which you never want to see that on an 18.
Not at all.
Luckily, it's Mark, so he ended up being fine. But we all were holding our breath as we watched, like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so it's the game itself has become so big. There's so much going on besides just the music and the number of songs. Like, there's so many different options available to the players now.
Right.
So many things that you just have to be constantly thinking about.
Right.
And if you forget one little thing, like if you forget to change your speed mod, if you forget to turn on or off constant or sudden plus, like that could cost you.
Yeah. I'm finding, for whatever reason, I guess the last time I played on A20 Plus, I was playing on Wavy and Sudden Plus, Hidden Plus, some like joke chart. I was probably playing Anti-Anthem, and it's like locked into my A20 account, so every single time I log back into this machine, it's giving me Wavy, Sudden Plus, Hidden Plus, and I have to change it before every song.
Yeah, so a very good example right there. Okay, so we have 2 new players coming up, Dan H and DASHARK. They're going to go into their warm-up song for the day, and then for their song draw, we have In the Past as Dan H's pick. I know Dan H is a very MA-focused player, so that seems right up their alley.
And DASHARK really likes stamina,
yes.
So antimatter is going to be good for that.
Yeah, so definitely both players picking to their strengths.
And I'll say both of these players have good pad familiarity now. Both of them played Friday and last night when we had free play availabilities, and were also part of the crew battles. DASHARK was actually in 2 crews with me.
Yes.
And so both of them have had some pad experience. Even though they're only going to get 1 warm-up song, they should at least be pretty well locked into the MA window on this machine. So I think we're going to be seeing really great scores out of them, particularly on In the Past. Antimatter is its own beast in terms of sync. One of the worst sync songs in the game.
Yeah, fast and late.
Fast and late.
And for some trivia, in case you had any doubts as to whether or not DASHARK actually likes stamina, they said that Triple Journey Challenge, they would play 5 times if they could. So very clearly a stamina player. They like just lots of notes and moving really fast because they're good at it.
And Ishtar 14 is a lot of fast notes.
Also, Chad, I'll give you one guess if you can guess what DASHARK's favorite animal is. It'd be funny if it wasn't actually a shark, but it's a shark.
It's the shark.
It's the shark.
I would love to see this go to the tiebreaker. I think that Memoria falls squarely in the middle of what their strengths are.
Definitely.
It is a very crossy song. It's a very stamina-intensive song. It's only the 15. I think is very comparable to the 17. It does a lot of similar types of things at just like a slightly different level. And so I would be curious to see if we split In the Past and Antimatter, which I think is very possible, who's able to lock into those really tricky crossover patterns on Memoria.
Yeah, Memoria's not really one of those songs you can cheat the crossovers in. You kind of have to commit if you really want to shine on that chart.
Yeah, like we were talking about with the BPMs earlier, that one's 161, and I think 161 is just a little fast for most people to be reliably hitting the perfect marvelouses on the crossovers.
And that's the key word, is reliably. Like, sure, you could do without crossing over, but like, if you're really aiming for MA, then, you know, you better be nailing those crossovers. And DANH giving us a really great example of how MA focused he is as a player, coming off with the 9-piece on Ishtar. Very good warm-up from him. Yeah,
DANH is our top-seeded player in all of Tier 6. And so, you know, I know Dan well, and we were chatting beforehand, and he feels really good about playing on these paths over the last few days. He's had some really nice scores, so he's come into the tournament very confident.
Sure.
He got 6 perfects on EDSM. He got 6 perfects on EDSM. On Friday.
Which is another twisty song, so he might actually be shining on Memoria.
Yeah. So he's feeling great, but DASHARK was playing excellent yesterday in our matches for the crew battles, so he can definitely make it happen. But if I'm Dan, I'm feeling really good about my chances in this tournament.
Yes, definitely. And if you can see the scores, our PBs for both our contestants, DANH had a 17 perfect PFC on this. DASHARK also with a PFC, I think it was somewhere in the 40-50 perfect range. So both very capable of this, but being that MA-focused player, this song is going to be in Dan's favor. I do believe this was a song that they actually fixed the sync for on World. It used to be kind of late, if I recall.
Just a little bit. I don't think it was... The ones that they choose to fix don't always make sense to me.
Sure.
I think it's a little off, but it
wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't egregious.
But something to keep in mind, you know, I don't know if Dan has been playing this on World recently, and now is going back to playing it on H2O Plus. Going, you know, a song you're comfortable with, if all of a sudden you're playing it on a different sync, that can mess with you a bit.
That's very true. Yeah, Dan with a little bit of a lead, not insurmountable, but if Dan plays at his best, he's going to hold on. So let's take a look and let him play it out.
Yes, I'm having a difference of opinions in chat about the sync for In the Past. Some people saying that they like the sync better pre-World, and some people saying that the sync pre-World was awful. So really interesting to see, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're upsetting both sides of the aisle, you're probably doing something right. So it couldn't have been that off.
Yeah, DANH is very dialed in here. Have a 20 EX lead over DASHARK right now.
Yeah. He's looking great.
Yeah, both of them very calm and collected. You can just see the focus.
Yeah.
And that's such an important tournament skill, is to be able to just really hone in and not get nervous or anxious and rush things.
Yeah.
And they're both a very clear example of that.
So Dan, actually, interestingly, is matching his personal best on perfect count just with the 2 greats added in.
Right, so very good start for him.
Or actually, he was one over his perfect count.
But still, in a tournament.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
great.
Yeah. Yeah, like we said, if you can PB in a tournament, that's going to be pretty special. So this is interesting. I don't know if Dan has since played this in DDR World. It seems like he hasn't played it in a while, because I know he is capable of much better scores than that.
Yes. But this is a hard song.
This is a hard song.
And as we mentioned before, it's fast and late, and that combination can be really, really hard for some players because you're trying so hard to keep up with it, but you also need to hold back a little bit, and that's a really weird combination to do.
Interesting. I see that DASHARK is opting to put Sudden Plus on. I haven't really seen that much in Antimatter.
No, I haven't either.
I wonder if he'll just do a small bit on the bottom. Some people like to do that.
Very possible.
There aren't really good opportunities to hit the button. So
no, you don't get too many breaks in this song.
Yeah, it's kind of, you get like a 2 count on a freeze arrow where maybe he's like holding on to the left note and he took his shoes off.
Okay, we are doing the shoeless.
Yeah, DASHARK is playing in socks with Sudden Plus. Hot take.
Yeah, so this being DASHARK's Protect, very clearly comfortable with stamina.
Yeah, he knows something we don't.
Yes, definitely. And you can see he's getting a bunch of fast right off the bat. Again, the sync is a little late.
Yep, he's going to have to slow himself down.
Yeah, DANH looking really crisp and confident in this so far. So we'll see if he has the stamina for the rest of the song. But right now, DANH has got the lead over DASHARK.
And this slowdown coming up is very tricky to time, so you could see a lot of greats get thrown here. Yep, lots of greats from both sides coming out.
Yeah.
Dan comes out of it with about a 60 EX lead. And from here, the song gets relatively repetitive.
Yeah, DANH is really dialed in. It's really going to just come down to it if he can hold on to this for the end of the song. Yeah, it looks like DASHARK's settling in a bit more to the Marvelous Minnow, getting a little bit more comfortable as the song is coming on, but making some mistakes in that slowdown.
Yeah, slowdown crossovers are so easy to mess up. See if Dan can hold this combo in this final run. Really hard when the stamina hits you here. Almost.
Wow, all right, and DANH is going to take that.
This is fantastic. He looks so good right now.
Yeah, I do wonder if DASHARK deciding to choose to play in socks last minute, if that messed him up at all, considering he was playing with shoes on for his previous 2 songs, the first song and the warm-up. I have to imagine that's quite a big difference when you go all of a sudden from shoes to socks in such a fast song. Yeah, we're going to have some really good players. We already have good players. I don't even know how people are better than this, honestly. It blows my mind.
Hey, how do you beat Dan? But Dan's actually going to stay on the pad right now. And it looks like Zephyra is going to come back on.
All right, interesting to see. I feel like this is going to be a really close match between these 2 competitors.
Yeah.
They both have really, really crisp BMA. It's going to come down to the song picks, I think.
Song picks means so much now.
It really does.
Especially as you get to players who are familiar with just about every chart in the upper levels,
right,
and know their strengths, know their weaknesses. Man, those song picks mean everything.
Yes. And interesting enough, for those of you that are not aware of the format of this tournament, so we are doing typical card draw, which a lot of tournaments use. There are no difficult charts in this tournament.
Yes.
It kind of matters less as we get to the higher difficulties because there aren't as many
right.
difficult charts, but it is expert and challenge charts only for the entire tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think primarily now the only things that you're going to see impacted are those 15 to 16 promotes
yes.
that we talked about earlier. Over the period, 15 will not be eligible. Endymion, 15/16 will not be eligible. And what's the other one that we decided on?
Did we say Max 360?
Max 360,
yes.
yeah, will not be eligible. So, and those, especially over the period and Endymion, could be really strong picks for particular people.
Definitely.
So taking those off the table can definitely change the nature of a match.
Yes.
All right, so looking at here what we've got, this is a really fun set. I would love to play this set. So new Era, we've seen it before. This is 240 BPM. Relatively light on the legs, but very complicated in terms of the speed changes and stops with a couple quick 240 drills.
And look at their scores.
And look at their scores, almost exactly the same money scores-wise, so you know that's going to be good. But then we move into Zephyra's pick, which fits right into Zephyra's comfort zone, Sakura Sunrise.
Yeah, I do. Like I mentioned, I think this is going to be a close match, and look, judging by their scores, I think that's going to continue to be the case. So I'm really, really excited to see these two players hash it out.
Jumps, drills is what you can look forward to in Sakura Sunrise. And if we make it through both of those songs, we will be treated to an old classic Max 300 Super Max Me mix where anything can happen.
Oh, yes. Yes, I feel like the song is going to work really well to both these players' favors. It's just going to come down to who's executing better and who's making mistakes.
One thing that we have to keep in mind is that Zephyra did warm up with Sakura. So when the Sakura step comes in later in the song, he's going to be ready for it.
The much easier Sakura step.
The easy Sakura light.
Okay, both of them really, really dialed in here. Just seeing lots of white combos both sides.
Yep, and they both clearly have strong knowledge of this. You saw it in their personal bests. Now you're seeing it in their execution. Almost all Marvelouses are getting streamed here. I think I've seen one or maybe two greats from each of them. So even on money score, they're going to be really similar.
Yeah, DANH showing that he's locked into that MA window.
And I saw Dan, a couple seconds before that fast crossover, take one hand off of the bar in preparation. So you know that before things are even on the screen, they know what they're anticipating here. This is at a level where players they're thinking 2 steps ahead even while they're playing the thing on the screen in front of them.
Yeah, and they're so comfortable with this chart. DANH's MA is just insane, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zephyra, she's also doing a fantastic job. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if DANH is going to leave him with anything, but watching these crossovers so crispy from Zephyra, my gosh, I'd be afraid to play either of these players. And nailing those 16th drills, too. Yeah, wow, that is a really strong ending from both of them. Coming away with great full combos. That is a tough song to come away with a great full combo, and they both did it. Dan even going over 2000 EX, too.
Yeah, very, very good job from both of them. That was incredible.
And look at that, 997.
Jeez.
What do you know?
Really, really insane score.
I don't know if that's an up score for him. I know it is on this card, but if I had to guess, I think Dan already had a score of that caliber on his world card. I am seeing Dan start to breathe a little heavier, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's showing that he's warm. It's showing that he's in it. He's very sweaty. He's moving good.
Definitely.
Oh, interestingly.
Oh, they do not have the song, it sounds like.
We may see Sandblow come out.
We might see Sandblow come out. Yeah, so Sakura Sunrise, this got a challenge chart later in its life. The song was from X2, and there was a handful of X2 songs that all got challenge charts at the same time. So this, Shiny World, and Pierce the Sky all got 16 challenge charts. And it was part of some event. I can't recall at this time what event it was.
That was an Ace 20, right?
I believe so. So I thought that would have been unlocked on Ace 2 Plus for everybody, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm confused by that. I thought that would have been an auto unlock. I am checking RemiWiki to see if there's any information. So it was originally part of the Replicant D action songs in X2, but yeah, I don't see any information about it being hidden for a 20 plus play.
Yeah, maybe there's some other issue. I'm not quite clear on what happened just now.
And this is one of those moments where Aaron jumps into action as making things happen
yes.
so the tournament continues to run smoothly. Not going to be derailed by Sakura Sunrise.
Not at all.
What is your favorite of the Sakura named songs?
Song-wise or chart-wise?
You pick.
I like... Let me think about this, actually. They're also similar.
So we have just Sakura straight, and then we have Sakura Sunrise.
Sakura Mirage.
We have Sakura Mirage, and what's the last one?
Sakura Storm.
Storm. Wait, and that's the 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or is that Sakura Mirage?
Oh my God, you're making me second guess now. I think the Sakura Storm is the 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2. Yeah, that's Sakura Storm.
I like that one.
I like playing Sakura Mirage, but only because the chart works to my strength, so I'm biased in that.
So I forget a little bit about Sakura Mirage. Can you remind me what that song is?
Sakura Mirage has a lot of jacks.
Hate that.
That's why I like it. It's very slightly early, where it's like comfortably early. So I tend to rush jacks, but when I have an early song, then
so then you're right on.
Exactly.
Oh, nice. All right, so it looks like we now have access to Sakura Sunrise.
Okay. So we are on the Sandblow card on the left. So that is not DANH's score, but I have to imagine she'd have something pretty similar to this.
Yeah, I think so.
We can see over on Zephyra's side, she has a 996. So definitely comfortable with this chart.
Great. So yeah, this is one of those short songs. Not a whole lot of steps overall, but it's moving quick. It has some fun little step jump moments. Some
fun, quote unquote fun.
Fair enough. Yeah, I hate step jumps, but it has some tricky step jump moments and some little drills.
Yeah, kind of a tricky little chart. I feel like this is another one of those ones that gets forgotten about, like the 16 level for this chart anyways.
Yeah, the 14 is very straightforward. All right, so almost said Sandblow. DANH with a little bit of a lead here. But again, it gets a little bit more complicated. There's going to be some syncopated rhythms coming up here.
Yes.
We'll see if they can hold on to their MA.
Yeah, these little gap sections here can be tricky, especially with all those jumps thrown in. DANH picking up a miss. Still not too far ahead. Zephyra has plenty of chances to catch up.
I think that's the opening that Zephyra needs right now.
Oh, this is very, very close hits.
Yep, 8 EX difference. And this is the part of the song where it starts to get a little bit tiring, so there is more opportunity for a window.
Okay, DANH picking up a great there, giving Zephyra a little bit more room to get a little closer.
And a miss. We are 1 note away.
Oh, this is so close.
But Dan is able to hold on just barely. 4 EX difference.
Did not make enough mistakes for Zephyra to catch up to him. 19-3 and 33-1. Those are both very, very good scores.
Yeah. But again, those 2 misses, which are a 6 EX change, are what put Zephyra right in the contention to take the song away from Dan.
Definitely.
It just shows you how easy it is to, in one fell swoop.
Yes.
But luckily, Dan just had such strong MA that he's able to hold on to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really close match. Would have been exciting to see a third song between the two of them.
Yeah, yeah. We've seen a lot of song trees.
There have. And that's also something to take into consideration if you're running tournaments.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't. There's no way to predict how many songs, how many matches are going to go to a third song.
Right.
But that adds up over time. So when you're trying to factor in the timing of a tournament, how long matches should be taking, you really have to account for the fact that every single match might go to that third song or more.
Yeah. So we have what has been often referred to as the Milquetoast 19 as our first song, Jucunda Memoria. At the time, a lot of people felt it was the hardest 17 when it was released. I would disagree. I do think it's fun to pretend it's a Milquetoast 19, though.
It's just relentless.
It is relentless. It is very hard, and it's hard to time. The music makes it hard to time. It's a weird BPM, 290. We only really see it in this and one other very famous song with 290 in the name.
Yes.
PSM. PSMO. And then it has like those weird moments with the 12th note drill that comes out of nowhere. Almost everything is a crossover where you kind of have to treat it like it's a double step. And then
lots of jumps, if I recall.
Yeah,
as well.
the second half of the song and really like the last third of the song really unleashes what is very similar to NGO. I think a lot of people were upset by this being a 17 because they felt it was harder than NGO 18, which is a very similar type of chart. But I do tend to disagree with people. This is slightly faster than NGO. NGO is 274 BPM, I think. But the actual step jumps themselves that come out of NGO are more challenging. So I think it is warranted that NGO is an 18 and this is a 17, but I think it would be perfectly reasonable for this to get rated up to an 18 as well.
And another one of those songs by Akuta, we were mentioning earlier with Sandblow, their songs are very different from a lot of sounds and songs you hear in DDR. So there's going to be really interesting rhythms, and you're not going to really have that strong beat that makes it really hard to try to tune into some of these.
Yeah, and there's kind of a darkness to the songs.
Definitely.
Particularly Jucunda Memoria.
And this is one of those songs where it's, you know, we mentioned it being relentless. By the time it gets to the second half, you just don't get a chance for a break.
Yeah, so you're seeing these patterns that are technically all crossovers, and you're seeing MALKIER is opting to do mostly crossovers, but DASHARK, our Sox King, is doing mostly double steps for these, but they're both getting similar levels of success out of it. Yeah, DASHARK with a very slight lead right now. I'm going to be interested to see after the 12th note drill where each of them come out in terms of their stamina and their timing, because that can really mess you up.
Definitely. So Duncan mentioned DASHARK using the sock strat. We saw him strip down to his socks for the last song he played, Antimatter, I believe. And it seems to definitely be working in his favor now. So he's probably a little warmed up with playing the socks on, and the song's coming a little easier to him.
Yeah, he's hitting the tail jumps here. Well, except that one. But yeah, this is when it gets crazy.
Yeah, and he's still got that lead over MALKIER, but it's just going to get even more relentless from here on out.
Yep, the song gives you about 5 seconds here to rest. And then the rest of the song is just one wild ride.
Bum, bum, bum. That's all I hear when I hear Jucunda. It's just that the sample when you're scrolling past the song. I have DASHARK having a pretty sizable lead, so we'll see if he can hold on to that for the rest of the song. Seems like the sock strat definitely working pretty well for him.
Yeah, the socks and long cargo pants.
Yeah, and MALKIER realizing that DASHARK's probably a little too far ahead for him. He's going to decide to conserve his stamina so that he has a chance to catch up on the other songs.
Yep, I think it's smart for both of them to leave that one beat.
Definitely. You don't want to just wear yourself playing through the end of Jucunda if you don't have to.
Some wah-wah chats coming from chants coming from the crowd, which makes me happy.
All right, so now we're moving into New York Evolved Tape B. We kind of talked about the middle child of the
Yep,
Evolved
that's
songs,
right.
and I feel like New York B is no exception to that. Kind of just one that's most people forget about. You know, I feel like A is notable for being the hardest New York. C, people just kind of like musically the best, so they play it. And B is kind of just in the middle.
Yeah, I really like the stops during the slowdown of B, though. There's like a weird pattern where you can either bracket the jumps coming in those stops, or you can start where you're like a little bit crossed over on the opposite foot. It's an ambiguous step. And if you start on the opposite ambiguous step than you expect, then you won't have to move your foot as far. But it's really hard to mentally like juggle that while you're trying to time out the stops. So it's a really interesting chart.
Yes. Something else, we're going to have some sync come into play. The New York Evolveds are notably pretty late, especially with that rock sound, you know, the rock style song and being late. It's sometimes really hard to find the beat on these.
Yeah, especially because like when musicians are playing these, because it's actual like physical instruments being played and not electronic stuff, although it's mixed with the electronic stuff, you know, it's not going to be as perfect. And so sometimes, like especially with guitars, you often will see something that's a little bit late, a little bit early, but you have to hit what is the sync of the chart, not when the guitar comes in.
And the first part of the song can be kind of tricky. It doesn't really flow too well from a step perspective. You see a lot of double stepping through parts of this.
Yeah, MALKIER got out of that with a yellow combo still, which that part is a part where it's really easy to lose that right off the top.
Okay, and this is the part where you're going to see a lot of double stepping.
Yeah, the freeze arrows are really mentally taxing to keep in mind, like when do I need to double step, when should I be crossing over? Yeah, it's a confusing section of the song.
Yeah, but MALKIER are looking very comfortable with this. Yeah, MALKIER are very clearly showing that this is their pick. Yeah, DASHARK also doing very, very well, but MALKIER is not giving them any room to work with.
All right, so coming up here are those interesting stops with the jumps that I was talking about.
Nice little fun opportunity for a ghost step as the music comes back in.
All right, and so it looks like Malkier's doing those as cross-unders and nailing every single one of them.
Listen, if you know what works, more power to you.
All right. Hits the crossover. My goodness, Malkier.
Yeah, very, very good job on Malkier's side. I'm not gonna, I didn't want to say it.
It's the hardest part of the song. If it was going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen right there.
Yeah. Very good job. Malkier crushed that one.
Yeah, that was just fun to watch.
That's a hard song to pull off well in a tournament. And one great, one miss, 53 perfects. Pretty good.
Would it be
High emphasis on pretty.
Oh wow, yeah, that is pretty darn good.
All right, so both players winning their song picks, which means we are going to the tiebreaker, which is Paparazzi.
Now this is another one with a weird BPM.
Very interesting, very weird time signature.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's like another one where you're not really sure what you're supposed to do in terms of double stepping or crossing over, and when you get to the quieter section, that is really hard to time because it doesn't actually give you that many fewer notes. There are some breaks between the streams, but the streams are just as fast. There's just no musical cues really to follow along to. So timing that middle quiet part is going to be, I think, the most interesting thing to watch between these two.
And we mentioned earlier that there's not too many songs at 290 BPM. This is pretty close to it, 280 BPM. So I actually don't think there's any other songs at 280. Obviously, there's a lot at 140, and this is effectively doubled. But being actually at 280, I can't think of any other song at that.
Right. Yeah, we've got 270 and 290. A lot of 300s.
Yes. Okay, so very weird chart. Very hard to hone into the MA on this, I would say.
Absolutely.
Definitely a song that takes a lot of focus. I feel like the sync is a little weird on this chart too. That could also just be the the style of the song, not having a heartbeat to really focus on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that the majority of it ends up coming from what the style of the song itself is, since you are on that weird BPM and there isn't like a lot of musical cues to catch on to. There's like a slight bias, but I think for the most part it's just that. But this is the part I'm talking about where it gets really quiet. Timing for the next 15 seconds is going to be really challenging for them.
Yeah, Malkier doing really good on those crossovers. DASHARK actually was up for a bit, but Malkier just overtook him.
Love hearing the sound of the feet overtaking.
Yeah, they are just neck and neck.
Yep.
Shark took the lead back by about 3.
And now it's pretty much an exact tie. Game 3, coming down to the final 30 seconds of this song on essentially a neck-and-neck tie between these two players, both fighting to try and get into Tier 7.
Oh, yeah, this is going to come down to the very last step.
Not a lot of song left to go. Oh, it is still tied. Final run of the chorus here.
Oh, DASHARK ever so slightly ahead. Now Malkier, oh my gosh.
3 EX up for DASHARK. The Malkier holding on to the gold combo, showing how locked in they are. DASHARK still with the 3 EX lead. Is there anything that he's going to do to give Malkier any chance here?
Just pick up a great on Malkier's side. That might cost him.
But I'm still seeing some slows from DASHARK. Oh!
1 EX win for DASHARK. Wow.
The entire Wawa Venus team, other than me, is currently standing on their feet, chanting, giving him hugs. DASHARK threw his hat on the ground.
That was an incredible performance from both of them.
Eruption from the crowd.
Very, very good job to both those players. It really came down to that last song, and they both crushed it.
Wow. Such good play from Malkier, too.
Really,
oh
really good play.
Like, especially looking back at that New York Type B, people had no idea what was happening in front of them.
No,
that was
not at all.
phenomenal to watch Malkier play that way. They did an absolutely amazing job, but all the props in the world right now to DASHARK for just clutching it out that little bit.
Definitely.
1 more great, but 3 fewer perfects. Wow.
Yeah, it really came down to that great Malkier side. at the very end of the song. That's when I saw DASHARK overtake him, overtake them, but otherwise they were just neck and neck and trading back and forth that entire song.
Yeah.
Very exciting to watch.
This is a hard game.
Very hard. They had some hard songs to play, too.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Everybody's so excited right now.
I thought we were going to go to a tiebreaker. And we almost did.
That would have been too much. My heart couldn't have handled it.
I don't know if our competitors could have handled it.
I wonder if Paparazzi is DASHARK's new favorite song now.
Oh, man, that is...
Sometimes the experience of a tournament can completely change your perception of a song. You know, you have a memory associated with it that you always carry with you. And I bet DASHARK will always carry with him that Paparazzi ending.
Yeah, that's a tricky song. There's actually a lot of steps in that song now that I'm looking at the max combo.
622 is really high for a 15. There's only a couple that go above 600, and most of them have now been re-rated to 16s.
Yeah. I mean, there's some 14s that have over 600 steps, like Koizuru comes to mind.
Yeah.
Love the space for.
Onyx, which was originally a 13.
Was it a 13? I thought that was always a 14 when it came out. I think a lot of people thought it should have been a 13.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of, which I think is silly because it has over 600 steps.
It does. It has a lot of steps.
It's like, yes, it's very straightforward steps, but
there's a lot of them.
Quantity is something.
Right. And I mean, that's just more opportunities to make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, DASHARK doesn't even know what happened. Just shaking his head.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? He's riding that high. Looks like he's getting ready for another match against Zephyra, looks like.
Yeah, that's right. You know, enjoy it for 30 seconds, take your props, and then get right back on the pad, and now you got to do some more timing. Ooh, my heart's still pounding a little bit.
Very exciting DDR today.
Telling you guys, Tier 6, it's where the good stuff happens.
We've had such close matches already, and we just got started. All right, well, I'm going to take this moment to remind our chat, who hopefully is just as excited as we are, where we are, who we are, what we're doing. We are here today in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at the Waterfront Dave & Buster's at Dahn Dahn Right 3, Encore Extra Stage.
And every time that you have to say Encore Extra Stage, you look at the bottom right of the corner and you say, what is the name?
Right, because I keep wanting to say Extra Exclusive. I keep wanting to say everything else. And I'm really glad that that's right there in front of my face so that I'm saying the right thing. And even though it's right there, I've still said the wrong thing multiple times.
It's all right. I've called people Sandblow. So, yeah, you're right. This is Encore Extra Stage, the third iteration of Dahn Dahn Right. A really lovely, successful tournament every year.
Yes.
And right now we are in Tier 6, the second to last pool play tier before our top 8 begins in a few hours. And you're seeing DASHARK coming off of the high of this last win on Paparazzi, about to play DeltaMAX against Zephyra, which I think, based on Zephyra's PB, is very clearly Zephyra's pick.
Yeah, Zephyra has a very good score on this, 995.
Oh my gosh!
Oh no! DeltaMAX Expert followed by DeltaMAX Challenge.
Oh, all right. Rana burying the lead on that one. Really waiting until we comment and be like, well, actually, I know something that you don't.
Everyone rushing to take a picture of the projector screen showing that right now.
Huge chuckles from the audience. Okay, so I'm very excited to see this because it's obvious that they each know and like this song.
Very true. For different reasons. Zephyra starting it with a dab.
And both of them on 1.5, so they both definitely know it.
Definitely, yes.
So that 1.5 is going to take you up to almost 800 BPM, actually over 800 BPM at the end. So if you're reading at 800 BPM, you know what's coming.
Yeah, so DeltaMAX, the expert chart is usually considered to be more difficult in the first half because of all these freeze arrows. It's just really difficult to read.
Yeah.
DeltaMAX Challenge, I feel like, is just harder overall,
yeah.
especially as you get to the end. But we'll get to see both of them being played.
Yep, right through here is where it is hardest in expert. This is definitely the hardest part of the chart to read those freeze arrows. And Zephyra is showing really the familiarity with this chart. I think that DASHARK is a little less familiar.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that DASHARK picked the challenge chart over this. But from here on out, the expert chart actually gets easier.
Yes. Once those freeze arrows get out of here, it's a lot easier to read and just becomes a matter of if you can read it at the speed mod that you're on.
And this is where it gets profoundly harder on the challenge
Yes.
chart here. Almost twice as many steps in this part.
But Zephyra is about a 200 EX lead right now over DASHARK, so she's definitely very comfortable with this.
Yeah, as long as Zephyra is able to hold on with the fast scroll speed and doesn't kind of get lost, everything will be fine, I think, going into this. And we're just going to need to see DASHARK kind of reset and go back into the challenge version of this chart, feeling more comfortable that this is his moment.
Definitely. Yeah, Sakura definitely showing that she's very comfortable with this ending run, even as fast as it's being played right now. All right. First song's going to Zephyra. All right, so as a reminder, Zephyra did protect DeltaMAX Experts, and DASHARK protected DeltaMAX Challenge, which is what we're going into next.
And well, you know what else is there to say other than this is one of the hardest 17s in the game. If you thought that last one was hard, this one, it only adds 22 more steps, but those 22 steps come in the form of all crossovers. There's more jumps. The second half of the song is just a lot faster. Everything about it is a lot harder.
So whereas DeltaMAX Expert, really the difficulty from it comes early on in just reading the steps, DeltaMAX Challenge definitely has difficulty in execution of the steps.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Definitely a reading versus execution issue. And I think that's where we see the strength of these players. DASHARK was like, well, maybe the reading isn't my strong suit, but boy, can I execute when things are tough.
So DASHARK's still continuing to play in their socks, which has been working pretty well for them the last few songs.
I love it. I mean, I'm sure they get holes in their socks very quickly.
All right, so Zephyra dropping back down to 1x for this and continuing to do the dab.
But doing a 1x on boost.
Oh, yes.
Which I have seen that before. I believe that's something that Jucunda does. Maybe Mark Grady, I think, also uses boost.
Perhaps. This is definitely one of the more popular songs to use boost for.
Yeah, DASHARK 1.25 boost is going to be very fast.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that DASHARK was also on boost.
So yeah, as you're seeing, this may seem to be a little bit more straightforward than the previous chart, and right now it is just a lot easier to read.
But it's not going to stay that way.
It's not going to stay that way. In about 20 seconds, you'll see why.
Yeah, so Zephyra with a very slight lead over DASHARK, but the chart's going to get exponentially harder here as we work our way to the middle.
So this part is also a lot harder than it looks. It's a lot of jumps which tire you out, and there are tail jumps going into it, as well as a crossover here. And you have to start all of those jumps on the opposite foot from where you want to, so there's just a lot more movement happening in every moment than you expect. Yeah. So whiplash crossovers here, and then basically the rest of the song is exclusively constant crossing over at top speed. And this looks very different from the expert chart.
Yes, but Zephyra still has a pretty good lead over DASHARK.
But that can change at the end of this song if Zephyra gets lost.
Picking up a couple misses there, but DASHARK also picks up some mixes on his side.
I do not know how DASHARK is reading this right now.
I don't know either. Almost wonders if they're screen looking, because I can't imagine reading this as fast. But it looks
DASHARK looks like he's looking straight ahead.
Yeah, I think they're struggling with reading it this quickly.
Yeah, yeah. DASHARK just did something that I have never seen before. In the socks, bracketed the up right and down left, and then jumped every single note. The last 20 notes, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He did every single one of those as a jump. So imagine the full body, both legs going up and down, jumping all of those. That's a strategy.
That is, and especially, you know, maybe he didn't really realize how fast that was going to be a 1.25x boost, and that was a way to kind of get through not being able to read that, how quick it was getting at the end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not readable. I think when you're on boost, I'm not exactly sure what the algorithm of the speed up is, but I think it gets to roughly 2x of what your original speed is at the top.
So it goes something close.
It goes from like 0.5x to 2x, and so if you're on 1.25, basically the top half of the screen you're reading. It's got to be 1,200, 1,400 BPM at the end of that song. Now at the bottom, it's more like 600 to 800, but that's only for
still fast.
Just for like a brief moment. So that is, it's not readable.
Right. But huge shout out to Zephyra. she just played both DeltaMAXs and won them.
Yeah.
So that's clearly her forte.
Not a bad way to spend Sunday afternoon.
If you like DeltaMAX.
Love DeltaMAX.
Just not challenge.
Well, I don't like the way it makes me feel. It's a good chart.
All right, so we got Dan H and Malkier facing off here. I have a feeling these first couple songs are going to be pretty close calls between the two of them. We got I'm So Happy Challenge coming up, which is kind of a stamina check. It's a little late, so that could have some issues, but I think both these players are really good at honing into sync, so I don't think that's going to affect them too much.
Yeah, and then Evans is going to be a very different story. Classic DJ Yoshitaka, kind of the easier version of Jucunda, but not by much, just a little bit. Basically, the main difference is that it is slightly slower but has more crossovers.
Yes.
Jucunda is 195, whereas Evans is 185, but the rhythms and music are actually really similar throughout the songs if you take out the speed up that Jucunda has. And so Evans has really tricky crossovers there in the middle, as well as a random boost jump that is easy to mess up in the middle of the song. So that is going to be a really tricky song for either of them, but I know that they're both equipped to do it, and I know they both have really good PBs on it as well.
Yes. Very, very similar scores for both of them on this chart, so I think this is going to be really close.
This is another one that has moments where music cuts out and then it's just like a drum beat with a drill. I think that that could be a defining moment in the song once we get to that chorus with the lead-in drum drill. If we see who is more locked into that, I think it will give us an indication of who's going to continue to be more locked in throughout the chorus and into the rest of the song.
Yeah, we're going to have these anchor runs, which some people just really lock into those. Yeah, as I mentioned, the song's kind of late, but neither of these players seem to be having any issues with that.
4 EX difference coming in here to step 76 in this slowed down moment. Now only a 3 EX difference, so pretty inconsequential beginning, but things are really going to start to heat up here. And a perfect, marvelous run from Dan there on that staircase.
Yeah, he's just really locked into this.
That was a great opportunity that Dan took advantage of to take a little bit of a lead now from MALKIER, about 20 ahead.
Still with a little over 10 EX lead right now. We're going to move into these anchor runs here, see if we can hold on to that good MA. Dan H picking up some perfects in there, but still maintaining a pretty healthy lead.
And that's a really tricky run too, because it starts on an ambiguous upstep, and it's really easy to forget that and to end up doing it all crossed over.
Sure. MALKIER picking up a miss. This song was Dan H's Protect, so he's clearly very comfortable with this. And comfortable with those anchor runs. We just got a PFC in a tournament, and that is a plus 17 on his PB. That is a big deal.
Big up score for Dan.
22. And he's not playing with fast slow. Oh. Just a reminder.
Dan, what? Come on, man.
I feel like he's one of those human metronome type players where he doesn't need fast slow to tell him where he's at. He knows where he's at.
Dan knows where he's at. And that's actually something I've been trying to get everybody else to understand, is that Dan knows where he's at, and not enough people are talking about it. But we are coming into Evans. This is the MALKIER pick.
Yes.
This is a MALKIER kind of song.
Definitely. Judging by their scores, assuming these are close to their PBs or their recent scores, definitely a MALKIER pick for sure.
Yeah, and MALKIER's done this on Like 4 as well. So that shows a level of confidence to go into a song, knowing that a song ends if you miss 4 notes.
Definitely.
And to still get through it. I am excited to see MALKIER play this.
Yeah, we're going to have a kind of a jump scare section in the middle.
Yep.
Hopefully these players have that section memorized, because it's really too fast to read. You just have to know what that first step is after that speed up.
Yeah, it jumps up to 370 BPM, and well, if you're reading us at probably 3.25, like we'll see from them, or maybe 3 from Dan, 3.5 from MALKIER. 375 is well over 1,000.
Yes.
luckily it's only 1 note, so if you remember it, it's not going to do too much damage.
Sure.
But the rhythm coming out of that is actually really tricky, because after that jump, the first note, I believe, is a yellow note, which is kind of like on an off-syncopated rhythm. So if you kind of have the song in your bones, it's not going to give you trouble. But if you don't, it might take you by surprise.
Yeah, definitely some tricky rhythms in the second half of the song for sure.
Oh, and there are these little 12th note moments here, just 4 notes, but it's harder than it looks. And it looks hard.
Pretty well on that. MALKIER with a 3EX lead so far as we get into the tricky syncopation parts. MALKIER picking up a miss there, giving DANH some opportunity to pull ahead.
I'm amazed by what I'm seeing from Dan right now. Hit all of those crossovers.
DANH just locks into that marvelous window.
And you know what? MALKIER isn't falling far behind
No,
either.
not at all.
These are 2 players so locked into this song.
Lots of crossovers here. MALKIER is executing very well. So is Dan.
So Dan finally lets up on a great, but that's just the one, and still nailing all of these crossovers and jumps.
He's not giving up any room for MALKIER to pull ahead. Oh, got a miss over on Dan's side.
All right, a 14 EX difference.
We're getting closer.
And this is when the stamina starts to come in. We're going to have our jump scare here. All right, a little bit of a flub from Dan. That's an opening for MALKIER, closing the gap just ever so slightly. Let's see how they get these ending crossovers. Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh! Another 1 EX difference. Oh my gosh. Oh man.
Oh, and my heart goes out to MALKIER.
I know, he lost by 1 EX again.
Second time MALKIER is going to lose by 1 EX. My goodness. And to win on money score too with a 986. That's an up score.
Really good performance from them though.
That was phenomenal.
Huge up score for DANH.
Just blown away. Blown away. Man, if only somebody had said that Tier 6 was the best tier. If there were only somebody out there who had warned us that we were going to be seeing some really good stuff.
Wow. All right, Chad, give it up for that match. It was an incredible match.
And a slow clap has begun.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this since a 90s rom-com, but there's a slow clap beginning for DANH.